Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the ThomaHawk Show. Listen, if you've been living under a rock, we are the #1 podcast in the history of audio, and you are now welcomed into the world that is Andrew Hawkins, myself, and Joe Thomas, the first offensive lineman in the history of the NBA. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It was another great weekend in Wisconsin. We got 5 inches of rain, and it was like 40 degrees. And I always feel like this time of year, it's a good time to talk weather so we can piss our boss TD off, who despises when we start talking about
weather talk.
Weather.
Yeah.
So
all right.
fantastic.
So we got 5 inches of rain. How do you measure rain? It's
this amazing thing called a rain gauge.
Wow.
And it's
nice.
basically a cup.
That is nice.
With hash marks on the side of it.
All right, I'm a fan.
But yeah, it was a good week because the Thursday night game in Seattle was riveting. I will say, I'm not sure if that's past your bedtime or not.
Absolutely.
But came down to a field goal and it was back and forth. Russell Wilson is playing lights out, and I think this is a good time to ask right now, who is your favorite for league MVP?
My favorite.
Because I know that my mind was changed after watching what I saw on Thursday night.
Yeah. My favorite for league MVP right now. Gardner Minshew. That's a lie. That was the first name that came to my head. Because I couldn't say Russell Wilson.
That would be a hot take.
Russell Wilson definitely is my favorite for the MVP, but you were obviously alluding to him, so I didn't want to say that. And
yeah.
Who else? Mahomes seems too easy, right? That's not a hot take.
Well, he's kind of been the sexy pick. He was the MVP last year, and he started so hot. But it was interesting as we were watching Russell Wilson perform last Thursday. Me and Steve Smith and Michael Irvin were talking, and we're like, why isn't Russell Wilson getting more credit? Is it because in Seattle they're just like so far away from it? It's everybody talks about like the West Coast bias.
Yep.
The fact that he hasn't really ever played with the amount of star receivers that Patrick Mahomes has.
Yeah.
I feel like he's not getting enough credit for that. Because you look at the weapons that Patrick Mahomes has, Travis Kelce and Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman right now, Tyreek Hill, like the whole roster is just loaded with skill talent.
Right.
Where you look in Seattle with Russell Wilson and he had Doug Baldwin and he's got Tyler Lockett and Will Dissly. Like those were the guys the last couple of years that he's been playing with, and he's just playing lights out. He doesn't turn the football over, and he just wins. And I'm interested to see. I feel like he finally, hopefully, can get that respect that I think he deserves this year.
I've always had Russell Wilson in my top 5 quarterbacks.
I think a lot of people have, but I think right now he's playing like number 1.
You think he's numero uno?
Dude, I'm telling you, this is the year I think he actually breaks out and people say he's the best player in the league.
Yeah, and this is
after watching him in person, what he does and the decision making that he has, where it's, should I pass in the pocket? Should I scramble and pass, or should I scramble and get a first down? And he never gets hit. It's amazing. True. Like when he breaks out of the pocket, he throws incredible on the run. Like the pass that he had on Thursday when he was running to his left, his shoulders were turned to the sideline and it looked like he was throwing it away. And he threw like the perfect dime to Tyler Lockett in the back of the end zone. It's probably going to be an SB. I mean, it was one of the best passes and catches I've seen in a really long time. And I'm just like, this guy does more for his team than anybody else in the NFL. And so I think he's got to be the front runner right now for MVP.
I like it. And if you're just tuning in, this is the official podcast of Wisconsin Bias. You can follow us on social media at ThomaHawk Show on Instagram, Twitter. You can check us our Facebook page. It's ThomaHawk. Hit up our voicemail line, 440-628-1376. We have some hilarious voicemails. And again, me and Joe find most of our enjoyment when we dial up the voicemail line, put our special code in. It is 1673 if you want to dial in, and then also check the voicemails yourself. But yeah, they're hilarious. All right, so let's just listen. I have a whole rundown that was worked on for literally 30 hours by the producers, and I am scrapping that right now. Okay?
Oh, don't do it.
Top 5 quarterbacks, Joe. You have 20 seconds. Give them to me right now.
All right. So my top 5 quarterbacks right now.
Yep.
Russell Wilson, number 1. Yes. Aaron Rodgers,
okay.
number 2. This is where it's starting to become tricky right now because Brady has not been playing well lately. But I would still put Drew Brees number 3.
Okay, even hurt.
Even though he's been hurt.
So Tom Brady is not playing well, but Drew Brees is literally not playing at all, and he's still atop of Tom Brady. Got it.
I know, but he was playing great until he hurt his hand.
Yeah, and Marino was awesome until he turned 87.
Well, Marino is not currently on a team, and if he was, he'd be in my top 5.
All right, continue.
So, and then I've got to put like Deshaun Watson up there. I think he's probably solid number 4, and maybe Carson Wentz number 5.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm feeling right now. Carson Wentz was super impressive when we saw him on Thursday Night Football a couple weeks ago in Lambeau.
Well, Joe's top 5 quarterbacks does not have Pat Mahomes, so mark that down. He's the only football analyst in the country who thinks Pat Mahomes is number 6.
I'm going to start over. Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. Then those other guys I said. Aaron Rodgers 3. Then I'm going to go Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees 6. So I changed my mind. Thank you.
All right, I'm going Tom Brady. No order. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Wentz 6. I'm not even putting Drew Brees on the list because he's hurt right now.
That's fair.
So I'll add him later. All right, well, listen, if you were listening, we need you to like, subscribe, rate 5 stars, tell a friend, and listen to the episode 20 times at 3x. All right? Because we get double the amount of listens in half the amount of time. Sound about right, DJ Chris? All right, sounds right. We also do a video episode every Sunday, so check us out on YouTube at Uninterrupted's YouTube page, and make sure you're subscribed there so you don't miss an episode. Now, let's get right into our run and pass section of the episode.
Run it or pass it. Run it, run it or pass it.
There it is. That done by the worst rapper in the history of hip-hop, Joe Thomas. All right, if you've been living under a rock, run pass works like this. John Fontenelle, that's his nickname. Also his government name, and it will stick that. He's been begging us for a nickname, and for that reason, we will always call him John Fontenelle. All right, so he's going to tee up a topic, and me and Joe have the option of either running with it and talking about it or passing on it because we ultimately don't give a damn. All right, John, you're up. What do you got for us starting off?
Jones stampedes Cowboys in Jerry World. Run it or pass it, guys.
I'm going to go pass.
I'll run that one. I'm just going to give a brief take here.
All right.
I thought it was pretty awesome that the first time we've seen Jason Garrett show any level of excitement on a football field, he got a 15-yard penalty for abusive language when he spiked the challenge flag right in the ref's face. But the best part was the ref fired right back with the most aggressive flag toss I've ever seen. And I love when the refs get into it and they start showing passion and emotion like real human beings, because I know that they're not supposed to do that. But when the ref really gets in there and he's like, first down, or he's like, that's a foul, you know, you can just tell they're getting wrapped up in the emotion of it, and it's really awesome. By the way, Dallas, the panic is in. The white flags are up with Dallas fans. We knew going into this game that the Cowboys, if they lost, they were going to have a much harder time at 3-2 than if the Packers would have lost, because the pressure is starting to mount. They've got a coach that doesn't have a contract next year. They've got a quarterback that has yet to get paid, that played pretty well with the pressure early on in the season. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, things have kind of unraveled a little bit on that offense. Dallas made a little bit of a run and kept it close at the end of that game, but it was crazy. Green Bay's defense with our man Mike Pettin is playing really well. They're taking the football away. They're sacking the quarterback, and Green Bay's running game is starting to click a little bit. Aaron Jones had 4 touchdowns running in that game, 4 total touchdowns in that game for the Packers. And it looks like Matt the Frenchman LaFleur's offense is starting to click. Like, we saw on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, Aaron Rodgers looked like the old Aaron Rodgers, where he was just standing back there in the shotgun throwing for 500 yards. But we didn't really see that Kyle Shanahan offense influence drink because he just hadn't done a lot of that under center play action stuff that we thought would be a big part of this offense and that would really help Aaron Rodgers. But this was the first week we just saw that offense play what I thought was a really good unit playing well together. And if you're a Packers fan, which I live with a lot of them in Wisconsin, you got to be really excited about the direction that this team and this offense is headed right now, because with that run game clicking and Aaron Rodgers playing like the old Aaron Rodgers, that offense is unstoppable. And then you have a defense that takes the football away and sacks the quarterback. That's a recipe for a Super Bowl right there.
I would love to give a rebuttal, but I passed on it and I can't. But I will say,
Yep. No rebuttals.
There was tweets going around that every time we mention Kyle Shanahan on the podcast, you have to take a drink. It's a new drinking game that all the ThomaHawk are doing. And Joe already, we're 20 seconds in, and Joe already dropped his first KS.
And for those of you that are not watching the YouTube version of this, you can't see that Hawk actually drinks during this episode. It's a coffee mug, but it's filled with straight bourbon because he's become an adult and he's not drinking Gold Dust anymore, or whatever that fucking drink you were drinking was. Gold Rush, whatever that shit was. You were trying to drink and act sophisticated. You're just drinking straight old man bourbon now, which
this is just
we appreciate.
Black coffee at night to get my juices going. What we got next, John? That's such a terrible nickname, John.
John? That's not a nickname. That's
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's a great name. Terrible nickname.
Jonathan.
We'll work on it,
Jonathan.
John. Give us time.
I'll take the business whenever I can get it. Kirk Cousins cashes in against Danny Dimes, and Diggs winks at reporters. Joe, run it or pass it?
Pass it.
Yes. I'm going to run it. I'm going to run it because Kirk Cousins, man, he has been the subject of so much ridicule. He got an $84 million fully guaranteed contract. And let's just call it what it is. In 2019, he's played terrible. So much so that it's not just the media who's calling him out. It was people in his own locker room. Thielen comes out after the game saying, we got to throw it downfield. He's saying he wasn't talking to anybody in particular, but there's only one guy who actually throws the football on the team. Stephon Diggs.
I wasn't talking to anybody specifically. Could have been that wide receiver double reverse pass.
It could have been anybody. Stephon Diggs stops coming to practice midweek and is like, dude, I am over this. So what does Kirk Cousins come and do on a Sunday? He delivers, man. Dude went off today, so I got to give him a pat on the back. Just when you think that the $84 million of the Minnesota fan base that they spend on tickets was wasted, here comes Kirk Cousins. All right? So shout out to you, Kirk Cousins. You balled this week. And, hopefully it keeps Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen from jumping you in the locker room this week. All right, what we got next, John?
Ravens edge Steelers in physical road win. Mason Rudolph and injury cart both helped off the field. Hawk, run it or pass it?
Oh, man. Pass. This is a dicey one. I know Joe's going to love to run with this one.
I'm going to run it. I'm just going to say that when Mason Rudolph got hit right up under the chin, everyone instantly had flashbacks to the Ryan Shazier hit. And so there was a lot of fear, myself included, in that stadium for what it could be. But thankfully, he had just gotten hit, right in the perfect part of his jaw. Kind of like if you see a boxer when they just get hit perfectly in the jaw and they just instantly get knocked out. That's what it looked like happened with Mason Rudolph. And so they took the face mask off, and for some reason they just started carrying him off the field. And he clearly was still way out of it. And he was conscious just enough to be able to kind of put one foot in front of the other and wrap his arms around his teammates. But he clearly needed to get helped off with a cart. It would have been much safer. A guy just had a concussion. The last thing you want him to do is to fall down or have a seizure, because those are the type of things that happen after bad concussions like that. So you want to be able to put him in a wheelchair or a cart and get him off the field. But as they're kind of dragging him off the field in a very serious situation, the TV cameras go over to the cart, and there's like 8 police officers and firefighters pushing the cart off the field like it had broken down. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a $15 billion business, and we can't get a golf cart that works for more than 10 minutes. And not only that, but we don't have a backup plan. Like, we don't have another stretcher you can put him on and just carry him and wheel it off. Like, I know when I was a kid, I put my hand through a window and I cut my arm and my wrist really bad, and I lost so much blood that I passed out. And so the ambulance shows up, and they bring like a stretcher on wheels, and they put you on that and they wheel you off. And how does an NFL stadium that has more doctors there than at the Cleveland Clinic, I'm sure, on any day of the week, because just on one sideline, you've got like 4 orthopedic surgeons, you've got family practice doctors, practically the dermatologist and the dentist travel with the team. So you got a gazillion doctors, but they can't find another alternative way to get Mason Rudolph off the field when he's clearly dealing with a very serious concussion. That was embarrassing. And the most embarrassing part was after the game, the NFL comes out and said, well, actually 2 things. One, Mason Rudolph didn't need a cart. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure that's the medical protocol is when a guy gets knocked almost dead, that you just want to carry him off the field and not put him on any type of a safe environment. Like after surgery, they don't let you just walk out of surgery because they don't want you to fall and get hurt again. That's the same thing with that. So he did need a cart, NFL. And 2, they said that it was user error. So the person just forgot to put it in forward. Like, when your kid jumps in the golf cart and they like forget that you have to put it in forward or reverse in order to get the thing moving. I can't figure out how they had somebody that their job was to operate the golf cart and they didn't know how to operate it. They know how to drive it onto the field, but not off. That was a real conundrum. I couldn't figure that one out.
I'm trying to contain myself because I'm not allowed to comment on this because I passed on it.
Next.
Damn it. All right, next, John.
Minshew Mania meets its match in Carolina. Hawk, run or pass?
Oh, pass. I'm over the name Minshew Mania.
Pass.
Double pass. Our first double pass of the episode.
Double
Round of applause there.
Drink.
Bills bully Titans in Tennessee. Joe, run or pass?
Pass.
Pass for sure. Titans, Bills.
Drink.
Just kidding.
Hey, man, the NFL plays the game.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. Falcons fall again. Houston hangs 53 at home. Joe, run or pass?
I'll run that one. Here's my take.
Joe's third run. Take it away.
Dan Quinn likely will not survive the week because his owner, Arthur Blank, came out right after the game and gave him the dreaded vote of confidence. When he said, we will not be firing Dan Quinn. He's a coaching staff that has done it in the past, and we feel like he's going to get it together and they're going to make it happen. But when you're a head coach that's brought in for your defensive expertise, what you did in Seattle, putting together the Legion of Boom and the great defenses they had, and you have a Pro Bowl quarterback, a Pro Bowl running back, a Hall of Fame caliber receiver in Julio Jones, and a lot of talent on that defense. They have lost to the Titans, the Vikings, the Texans, and I can't remember the other team that they lost to, but they have not lost to the eventual Super Bowl champions so far. So to not be able to win the games that you should win on your schedule with the talent that they have is unfortunately telling for the coaching staff, especially after they fired all their coordinators last season. So there's really no one else to blame at this point except for the head coach. And unfortunately for him, it looks like that's the direction that things are headed right there, unless somehow they can turn things around this week, because any more embarrassing losses, and I just don't know if the ownership group can stick by somebody. Even though I hate the mid-year firing, I think it's the dumbest thing ever to fire your coach in the middle of the season. It seems like it's the popular thing to do with ownerships nowadays. They love firing guys in the middle of the season so that they can get a head start on the coaching search, which you can still look for coaches when you have a coach if you know you're going to fire him. That's the one thing I couldn't figure out. Like, wait, you're not allowed to like research other coaches until you fire your coach? I'm pretty sure you own the team. You can do whatever you want.
Browns fired their coach first and then hired their offensive coordinator, hired their running backs coach as the head coach. All right, I'm going to run this one.
Hawks running.
Yeah, it's my second run. I got another run left. But yeah, no, I agree with everything Joe is saying about the Falcons. I want to see, and our researchers who are some of the best in the entire planet, how many times has an owner given a coach a vote of confidence and that person has actually not gotten fired? Like, if you have to give your coach a vote of confidence that you're not going to fire him, that's pretty indicative that you're eventually going to fire him at some point in time. It's definitely going to happen. But
it just means I haven't fired him yet.
Yes, I'm not firing him today.
I've decided I have fired them, but I just haven't done it yet.
Right.
So I want to tell them first.
Yes, I haven't had the discussion with them yet. The biggest thing about the Falcons, and I've seen this before. Yes, their defense is playing bad, and I'm talking really bad. But the most indicative thing of like the state of the team is that they are being terrible tacklers, right? This is something that we've done as NFL players since we were 4. There are offensive guys who don't tackle ever that could go play defense and probably still be pretty good tacklers, right? I just feel like it's a level that the defense and the players on that defense aren't pushing to. Like in Cleveland, we had good players. Usually when you see a team that's tackling is bad, and yes, there is such thing as teams tackling bad, but it's just like, it looks like an effort thing that they're almost giving up. Like to them, they're 1-4, this season is over, right? So they're not pushing themselves to that extra limit. Like there's something they're not fighting for. Again, for that to be happening so early in the season is indicative. And I was on TV with Brian Billick, and he said it perfectly. When you're a head coach and you decide to call the defensive snaps, you're no longer being judged off of wins and losses, which is 16 tries. You're now being judged off of 1,300 play calls, right? Like, what play call didn't you make here, defensive guru? Why did you have him in man when it should have been zone? Why did you blitz when you should have sat back? Why were they in zone when it should have been man? And that's something that Dan Quinn as a defense is not living up to. Him calling the plays has actually made them worse. So, yeah, when he says that he's not going to fire him, like Joe said, it means not today. I love Dan Quinn, though. All right, what we got next?
Yeah, I like Dan Quinn. I mean, I thought he was doing a great job until Kyle Shanahan left. Drink. By the way, they are 19-20 since Kyle Shanahan left. Drink.
All right, 3. Our listeners
In
are
the
going
Super Bowl.
to get alcoholism by the end of this episode. What we got next, Joe?
Kyler's first. Go ahead, Joe.
Communicable. I don't think it's a communicable disease, by the way you said they're going to get alcoholism.
Okay.
It's like a flu
contract
virus.
alcoholism.
They contract alcoholism
contagious.
just by listening to this show. They're going to drink themselves through it.
Kirk and Kyler's first career W, run or pass. Joe's all set, so this is this one-on-one with Hawk right here.
Yeah, I'm going to pass. No. I feel like we skipped some.
We did. I'm doing this on purpose, so we'll circle back to the other
right. This is tough. I'm going to run it, and I'm going to flip it and go Bengals. Bengals. My Bengals. Childhood team of mine. You're probably going to pick first overall this year.
Sweet childhood team of Hawks.
They look really bad, man. I mean, like, and I get Zach Taylor's first year. They have a lot of injuries. Here's the cheat code for the Bengals. I started with them in 2011, the same year as A.J. Green and Andy Dalton. The cheat code is this. They are not nearly as good when A.J. Green is not playing. Mm-hmm. They are the same Bengals every time A.J. is not in the lineup.
That's a hot take.
For 8 years, even 2 years prior to that. So what that means is what we've been watching this whole time, even when they were on their rip, I'm telling you, if you remove A.J. Green, the team is probably the same team we're watching today. Even when I was there. I mean, that's just the reality. AJ was a cheat code. When we needed a hot play, we were down by 3, down by 4, down the stretch. We could toss it up, and AJ would jump over top of everybody and make the catch. That's not there anymore. So, here we are. Next topic. Is that my last run?
That's it.
Damn. All right. I should have waited. I should have saved it. All right. All right, we're going to move to Am I Trippin'?
There we go. This is my favorite riff, by the way.
I don't even hear Am I Trippin' in that. That's just a nice little
he's so stoned
doo-wop funk tune. All right, go ahead, John.
Funny.
Tee us up.
Bridgewater breaks out. Saints march to 4-1 with Drew Brees' return imminent and the Bears' offense stuck in mud. Am I tripping, or should the Bears trade for Teddy Two Gloves?
You made that noise with your mouth as if you were going to say something profound and take this question, but then you just stopped. Would you like me to start?
I have nothing there. I have nothing, literally nothing in my brain right now about Teddy Bridgewater and the Chicago Bears.
We've said Kyle Shanahan too many times already today, apparently, because Hawk has driven himself to alcoholism. He's gotten the alcoholism.
57 shots in, thanks to Joe. Love fest with Kyle Shanahan today.
Here, drink. I'm going to say this is a serious take here. The Saints, organizationally, may have made one of the smartest moves that we've seen in recent memory. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of the job that the Eagles did when they signed Nick Foles to be the backup. Playing quarterback in the NFL is so important to the success of the team that it makes sense to put 2 to 3% of your salary cap into the backup quarterback position for just this exact situation right here. The Saints were able to get Teddy Bridgewater. They paid him a lot of money. I think he's making $8 or $9 million a year, which is more than probably almost all their starting offensive linemen. So he's making a lot of money, but in those situations when you have a starting quarterback go down, to be able to have somebody as good as Teddy Bridgewater come in and to be able to lead this team to several victories is pretty amazing, and it's going to keep them in the hunt for when Drew Brees comes back. And as a matter of fact, they're probably going to be leading the NFC South when Drew Brees does come back. And for Drew to be able to take over a team that's leading the NFC South is an unbelievably fortunate situation. Typically, they would always say, if you're a backup quarterback, all they expect you to do is not turn the football over and win half the games. Looks like Teddy Bridgewater might win 3/4 of their games or more as the starting quarterback till Drew Brees comes back. So I think you're going to see more NFL teams taking this strategy of, we don't care what it is, but we're going to pay a lot of money to have a really good backup because injuries are happening. Starting quarterbacks in the NFL are dropping at an unprecedented rate right now. I don't know why it is, but it's happening. And so these teams that are preparing for it by having a really good backup ready to play are reaping the benefits, and the Saints are a perfect example.
That's a terrible take. Here's why it's a terrible take.
Thank you.
They're already flushing down so much money into the starting quarterback market, and the number is only going up every year. We talked about Patrick Mahomes, and it's like when he signs his new contract, he might be making $45 million a year, right? And you still need enough money to pay other players. That's why typically these quarterbacks who have a bunch of money, the talent around them starts to dwindle, right? You talked about Russell Wilson earlier in the episode. The reason why he doesn't have sexy wide receivers is because he makes so much freaking money that it's like, hey, this is why we're paying you all the money.
Take. We need you
to do more with that. We got to protect you so you don't get hurt, but everything else is more on your shoulders. So the reason why Teddy Bridgewater will never get traded to Chicago is because Drew Brees is like 77 years old. They understand they're at the end. So why would they trade him away when he's their own succession plan? But also, I'm going to say pump the brakes because today was the first game in the last 3 that we see from Teddy, which is smart on his behalf, right? Because he's taking what the defense is giving him and he's not trying to do too much. But this was the first game we actually seen him throw it down the field. They scored 12 points a week ago. He didn't do a bunch versus Seattle. They beat a good Seattle team. We talked about how good they are. But still, to this point, I wouldn't say like, yes, everyone go get Teddy Bridgewater because he is clearly the next coming of Drew Brees. I think Teddy Bridgewater is amazing. I think he's the starting quarterback in this league. I think he is the future for New Orleans. Like, he is their succession plan. It's a good plan. But even still, you can't pay a backup that much money because now you have your starter making $40 million a year and your backup making, what, $12 million a year? Like, now you're dumping that much money to the quarterback position. Someone still has to block for him. And I would think a left tackle would understand that, Joe.
Nah, you're wrong.
Okay.
First of all, the reason Russell Wilson doesn't have the receivers that Patrick Mahomes has is because they spend all their money on defense. They've been paying defensive guys like crazy. Bobby Wagner is the highest paid inside linebacker in the NFL, and he deserves it. They have great defensive players.
Yeah, you should pay for your defense.
So there you go. And it's a formula that works. And I'm sure the Eagles really feel like it wasn't worth paying Nick Foles all that money to be the backup. Oh, he won him the Super Bowl. Boom. Good take.
Boom.
Next question.
Next one.
And by the way, the Bears, okay, we didn't even answer the question, but the Bears, they're not going to trade for him because they've invested the number 2 overall pick. They traded up to get
Mitch Trubisky.
Lost his name in my brain for a second. He has not played well.
NFB
Chase
is
Daniels
somewhere
has outplayed him.
Out.
It's true. He hasn't played well, but they still feel like he's a guy that didn't have a lot of experience in college, and so he's still got a lot of room to grow. I think he still gets another year before they start going, oh, shit, what are we going to do at quarterback?
Right.
If he doesn't turn it around. Next question.
For the record, Teddy Bridgewater making $7.25 million this year.
Yeah, it's a little less than I make.
That's nice.
And I agree. Bears should not trade for Teddy Bridgewater. Moving on. David
That's
Bakhtiari.
right between our salaries for ThomaHawk Show.
Yep.
Me and you.
Yep, perfect.
David Bakhtiari joined the
7-4.
show last week. Joe gave him some helpful blocking advice that he actually used in the Cowboys game today. Check it out on Twitter if you haven't seen it already. You may have a side hustle on your hands, Joe. Guys, am I tripping? Or should Joe start a clinic for NFL linemen the way Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon helps NBA post players?
Joe, I'll let you handle this one. Since it's directed at you. I have my takes, but I'll give it to you.
So I'm just doing anything to try to remain relevant in today's NFL. And so I'm actually not sure if what I told David was actually helpful and he listened whatsoever, because I know Hawk didn't listen.
Nope.
As soon as we start talking O-line stuff, he turns his brain off. But I did watch him do a great job on the front side of the play action zone to the open end side, exactly as we talked about it. And it made my little heart very, very proud. So if it can keep me relevant and I can start calling myself Joe Stradamus again, which is unrelated to this, but I really want that nickname to start taking off. I'll take it any way I can get it, because as they say, somebody's got to give them the business. You hate to see it.
You hate to see it, and you can't measure that with an abacus. What's next, John?
You can't measure that with an abacus.
Hawk, you mentioned on our last show that you have a Vontaze Burfict take. Hot take, Hawk. I'm going to set you up here. Is the NFL tripping by suspending Vontaze Burfict for an entire season?
I do think they're tripping. Now, Vontaze is a habitual line stepper. We understand that. He's done some very questionable things, and that's putting it lightly and putting it kindly. He's twisted ankles after the play. He's punched people in the min area. I don't know what the correct term is there, but he's done that. He's done a lot of things outside of the whistles that the moniker as a dirty player, he's earned that. I think he understands that as well. Again, I'm a guy who played with Vontaze, but I've also played against Vontaze, and it sucked having to play against Vontaze, because anytime you play somebody who is not confined to the rules, like he doesn't care about the outcome of the consequences of that, that's scary as a guy going across the middle. Now, having said that, for the hits where it's helmet to helmet, and I get those are dangerous, and with all the information we understand now about head injuries, that people look at them a little different. But for me, playing on the field, understanding how fast the game moves, I think it's hard to tell a defender at this point that those kind of hits to be the reason why he's suspended for the year, that doesn't sit well with me. Yes, you can't leave with the crown of your helmet. Yes, helmet to helmet injuries, and that's a penalty now. And yes, the rules have changed over the last 5 years or so. But I feel like if you fine them, great. Penalty, of course. Kick them out the game, I'm okay with that. But to suspend them based on the things that we've seen in extracurricular, I feel like those are two different categories and lanes, and they shouldn't be put together. I feel like any big hit defender, anybody you look at and you say, man, that's a tough defender, I feel like I can put a rip together of 20 plays where their helmet is hitting another player's helmet, because that's how fast the game moves. It's a part of the game. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying that's the safest way. But the reality is this is football. This is for tough guys. And again, that just comes along with the territory. I'm anxious to hear Joe's take.
No, you're not.
Nope. I actually don't want to hear it at all.
No, I think you're wrong. The guy's a habitual offender. He targeted Jack Doyle from the Colts. He lined him right up. He lowered his head, hit him with the crown of his head, right in the head. He was already on the ground. He was a defenseless receiver. It's something we've seen over and over again from this guy. At some point, you've got to draw the line and say, enough is enough. We can't allow somebody that's going out there and that is willfully trying to injure players and try to hit them in the head to damage their long-term health.
I don't think that's going through his mind. I don't think he's trying to injure somebody.
Hey, I don't care. Don't confuse effort and results. All I know is on the field, that's what keeps happening, whether he's trying to or not. At this point, I don't really care what his intentions are. It's what keeps happening. And if he can't control himself to be able to not target people and lower the crown of his head and knock people out of the games with his head, then maybe he doesn't deserve to be in the NFL. Because as you know, if you can't control yourself before the snap and you keep getting false false starts, whether you're doing it on purpose or not, it doesn't matter.
True.
You're either coaching it or you're allowing it, and both are bad, and you got to get them out of there.
I don't think you got to get him out of there. If you false start 100 times, and I get it's not the same thing, you're not going to get suspended for breaking the rules. I feel like that is still a football play, and I understand you can't lower your head. Give him a fine, kick him out of the game. Next game, if he does it again, give him a fine, kick him out of the game. And eventually, the Raiders will say, we are no longer in a position to win if you keep doing this every game. I don't think that's something that you can tie to him twisting ankles after the play, which, again, I'm not saying he shouldn't be suspended. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been kicked out when he did some of the other things a long time ago. 6 or 7 or 8 of the instances outside of the whistle may be enough. But again, you look at a play like Earl Thomas today. You mean to tell me you don't think I can string together 15 to 20 plays of Earl Thomas hitting somebody with his helmet? You talk about any big hit artist. That's what they're known for, is that they don't have regards for their own body. The person that Vontaze Burfict is putting in harm's way the most is himself. Not to say that's okay. Again, he should be kicked out of the game. He should be penalized. He should be fined. I don't think he should be suspended, and for that to be labeled a dirty player, because every single NFL game, there's somebody hitting somebody helmet to helmet. Every single one in the history of the NFL. Next topic.
Thank you. That horse is dead. Kyle Shanahan, drink.
Kyle Shanahan, drink.
I believe another catchphrase that should be drinkable is we've beat that dead horse up. Or
yeah.
What do we say?
Not to beat a dead horse.
That's the classic one. But what do we usually say about stringing on the topic?
Belaboring a point.
Yeah, not to belabor the point, but we're going to go belabor it. If we belabor a point and we mention it, you must drink.
Wow. You're not helping our audience. All right, what's next?
I think it's about time. We have got to get to our guest. Let's ring Colleen Lone Wolfe. Wolf.
Nice.
Woo! What's up, guys?
What's up, Colleen? Welcome to the ThomaHawk Show.
It's so great to be here. I'm so happy about it. Happy Sunday.
We're happy to have you, Colleen. And for those of you that don't know, Colleen and I work Thursday Night Football. She is the amazing and wonderful host, and I am merely the slappy that sits in between two other slappies that we talk a little bit of football, but Colleen tries to keep us on track, and sometimes it doesn't always work so well. Like last week in Seattle, we went off the rails a little bit, but thankfully we had the great Colleen Wolfe to keep us back on track.
Always.
But the shows are a little bit more fun.
I feel like we go off the rails every week.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I watch, and those guys, they go off the rails.
Yeah, we like to go off the rails a little bit. The crowds, those Thursday night games, they're really rowdy. And NFL Network puts us right in amongst them. And so they're like talking trash during intermission between segments. And Michael Irvin is always one of the focal points because there's always a Cowboy fan. It doesn't matter where we are. There's Cowboys fans. And then, of course, there's the Cowboys haters. So he's always getting people heated up. Which is pretty fun. But something interesting happened this past week in Seattle, Colleen. And I'm not sure if you were in the RV at the time, but basically what happens is we get to the set maybe an hour or so before we go on air, and we get an opportunity to go over any last minute details. If we need to go through a rundown of one of the segments just to practice it, if we've got like an X's and O's segment, and we get our makeup and just kind of hang out in this little RV that they park right next to the set. And I'm a taller gentleman, and the people that I work with, Colleen, Andrew, Steve, and Michael, are all a little shorter people, some shorter than others. But I was in the back, and for some reason, I don't know, we're in the same RV every single week, but this is the first time they had the fan on in the back. And so I'm standing there, and the fan's kind of wobbling, and I'm just standing there, and the fan's going, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it wobbles enough and just digs right into the side of my head, like smokes me right just above my hairline, to the point where I'm actually bleeding a little bit, and we're going on in like 10 minutes, I would say. And so the lady Pam that's in charge of us, making sure we like get there and go to wherever we need to go. Starts freaking out, and she's like calling for ice. She's like, "Are you okay?" She's worried I got a concussion, and she ends up like holding a Coke can on my head, and we were hoping that it wouldn't, blow up to be like this huge, big incident. But I'm wondering, Colleen, in your years of hosting Thursday Night Football, because you started before I did. Have you ever seen such a traumatic injury and somebody who is probably should have been in the concussion protocol like me last week?
I was going to say.
I'm so sad that I was not there for this. I don't know where I was at the time. Who knows? I could have been anywhere, but that's exactly where I needed to be. And these are the things that I really don't ever have to worry about. Put in my head on a ceiling fan. Yes. That has never, ever been a worry of mine, ever.
You and me
both.
both.
So I'm actually really upset that I missed this, because later on there were all these jokes the whole night about, you had an injury to your face or something like that. And I was like, what is happening? And then I finally found out later. And now that I got the whole story, this all makes way more sense. But I don't think anyone has even come close to that.
Was this the first time you heard that story?
You already have the award for... Yeah, I didn't know all of the colorful details that went into it.
My favorite
part.
Because
I was like, you hit your head on a fan.
That's not even real for people like me and you, Colleen. My favorite
Corner
part
of
is
the fan, right in the side of the head.
Right.
Joe opens the interview with the story of his own, just in case you were planning on telling it. He wanted to make sure we heard it from the horse's mouth.
You got to control the narrative.
You got to control.
Can't just let that go out there willy-nilly.
Narrative. Yeah, that could be damaging.
Yeah. Now,
The
I don't know if we would count like something like maybe a potential injury that could have happened, because my first ever Thursday Night Football broadcast was, I guess, last year, and it was with Steve Smith and Michael Irvin, and they were still just like kind of getting acquainted, and they got into a very heated discussion, and nothing ended up happening. But yeah, if we did like potential rankings, that would be at the top of the list.
What was going through your mind? Because we've all seen that video. Obviously, they're like relatives now, but we all seen that awkwardness of that video. What were you thinking on set when that was going on?
I was thinking, how much time do we have left in the break? And at what point are we live again?
Consummate professional. You can't throw Colleen off.
Does anybody have like sweat towels? It takes a lot to throw me off, but it was very hot, like literally and figuratively at that moment, because of the heat, and then the heat between those two. It was there was a lot going on there.
So that was probably the most interesting moment you've had on Thursday Night Football, I'm guessing. But if you think back in the couple years you've been doing it, what has been the most fun moment?
Oh man, there have been so many, and honestly, Joe, you've been part of a lot of them. The Browns game last year against the Jets, when they finally got a win, and it was like during our production meeting before the show, we were all talking about whether or not we would see Baker Mayfield if if Tyrod Taylor wasn't able to get the offense going, was there any chance? And and you, I think, Joe, had been like, no, there's no way. Like, not unless Tyrod gets hurt.
That's what we do in the ThomaHawk Show.
It was like we got on the field and literally like we saw Tyrod Taylor go into the tent, and then Baker Mayfield came out, and that game, it was like a playoff game. The atmosphere was so crazy. It was so electric. And then when Baker came over and was so cool and so chill and hung out with us, and he was throwing t-shirts to all the fans, and our producers were telling me to rap and go to break. And then all of a sudden, Baker comes back and strolls back up on the set and sits down for more. So we were like, all right, let's just keep it going then. That was such a fun show and such a great game.
Well, that was cool. That was really like the birth of the Baker Mayfield movement. And he has been like the poster child for the NFL this offseason. It started a little bit rough to the season, but they're back on track. And I think everyone's feeling really good being back on the Baker Mayfield bandwagon. And I'm really looking forward to the Thursday night game coming up in November in Cleveland. Whoop, whoop. That we'll be doing again. I think Mr. Hawkins might even make a little bit of a surprise appearance at the game because it's a huge one there against the Steelers.
There's been some rumblings. I'll just leave it at that. So, Colleen, for our audience, tell everybody about.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay.
Tell everyone about your journey of how you got to Thursday Night Football.
Oh man, I didn't even want to be in. I didn't even want to go into sports.
Really?
Like, this was not even. This was never the plan. No, I was going to go to art school and be like an art teacher or go into art, like illustration or graphic
tons of money in
or something. And like, I know, right? Like, thank God that didn't happen. What was I thinking? Why would I do that to myself? So. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I ended up.
Our creative team is going to punch me when they hear that joke.
Oh, no. Yes, I was not part of it. I'm trying. I'm Switzerland here. Get me out of that. Okay, so I ended up, like, long story short, I ended up going to a college in Philly, Drexel, like last minute, and I declared as a communications major and like got into sports because I did a bunch of internships and loved it. And so I did basically any job that I could get. It was usually not on air. So I would build cameras. I was an editor, producer, line producer, like whatever I could do. I was a booker for a while just to kind of get in the door and meet people. And I would do overnight update shifts on the radio. And just like I would do post-game shows. I used to do a post-game show at a casino where my job was just to read like tweets and message board comments. So I somehow made my way. I just kept climbing and just kept like annoying people enough that they were like, okay, fine, we'll give you a job. And I ended up at NFL. And when I got to NFL, I was originally hired just as a digital person. And so I was doing all sorts of videos and Twitter shows and things like that. And then little by little, then they started to let me fill in on different shows, and then I would get other shows. And then last year they put me on Thursday night, and that was awesome. It's the most fun. I love that show so much.
So you got your job how I got on the ThomaHawk Show.
Great.
I basically just annoyed Joe until he was like, fine, I'll do a podcast. Whatever, Hawk.
Yeah, it's the best way to get a job. That's where you, like, to all you kids out there, just annoy somebody into the point where they're like, okay, just get out of my hair. Here's a job.
If being annoying was the only thing you needed for a job, there are so many people that should be making millions of dollars that I won't name by name. But let's transition to some Philly talk. You said you're from Philly, right? You're a big Philly fan. How are you feeling about your Eagles right now?
All right, so it's hard for me to take anything away from the Eagles blowing out the Jets today. I feel like this was the first week. I guess I watched them, and it was just like I was so relaxed. It was such a lovely morning. I was just like chilling. My blood pressure was not high. It was great. But yeah, I mean, they did get the win, but I thought their offense really did not look good.
Yeah. I mean, they got the win. It's the Jets. I mean, the Jets, yes, they look like a college football team. That's fine. No big deal. A win is still a win in the NFL, Colleen, right? So we're celebrate. As Browns fans, we're in first place, so we're celebrating. So I'm going to tell you to do the same thing. Don't worry about the what ifs.
I know. It's true. And hey, it was nice to see the defense like really, really have a great performance out there. They had 10 sacks in this game. They only had 3 sacks through their first 4 games of the season. So they got rolling. And I feel like if anything, it was like, okay, this is nice. Like shake off the rust, get yourselves right this week, and then go out there. They have a really tough schedule now. They have their next 3 are on the road, and the defenses that they have coming up are, I mean, it's not easy. They have the Bears. Well, up next, they have the Vikings, the Cowboys, but they have the Bills, the Bears, the Patriots, all in a row. Yeah, so that offense, watching them today, I mean, the score, 31 points, I really didn't think that's not indicative of how the offense performed, because the defense kept putting them in such great positions and literally in great field positions on the field. So they just got to be better at running the ball. And I think it'll also help when Deshaun Jackson gets back too.
I think it says everything that you need to know about the Jets. When after the game, listening to Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz's post-game presser, it sounded like they lost. They were talking so sad about their offense and the performance of their team, and it sounded like they lost the game, even though they won by like 3 touchdowns. But so do you think right now, the way the Jets are, even when Sam Darnold comes back, are they going to compete with the Dolphins for the worst team in the NFL right now?
I mean, like, I think that must be Adam Gase's plan, because he is not doing them any favors at all. The fact that Sam Darnold got all the first team reps this week, and you're talking about you're dealing with mono, where you can't play around with that. I mean, that's literally life or death. I mean, what are you doing? Why push it? It's really not worth it. So at the very least, give your backup some work with the ones.
Right?
I mean, that is just, they were in such a position to fail today.
They screwed Luke Falk. I mean, the guy did not take 1 rep all week and had to go out there to try to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean,
and it showed. He got sacked 9 times, which is pretty amazing. I'm sure he's going to be in the cold tub for the rest of the week.
Goodness gracious.
But I thought that the most interesting storyline going into that game was how Sam Darnold was going to the doctor to get his spleen measured. And I was thinking back, in my 20 years of playing college and pro football, I don't think I ever remember any reports of people getting their spleen measured. Like, if that's even a consideration, maybe he should sit out. Like, don't give him any practice reps. He's not ready. Like I'm pretty sure that if he's not feeling amazing, like, don't even go to the doctor and get an MRI on your spleen.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so Colleen,
imagine his poor parents, by the way. Like, what the heck are they thinking all week? They're probably like, oh my God, please don't play. Like, let's talk about this.
And then he practiced all week with the ones. So they were like, he's probably going to play.
Oh my God.
That's scary. All right, you don't get it. I don't feel like they give you a chance to give your hottest takes on Thursday Night Football. So give us your hottest takes right now, Colleen. Give us one thing that you're like, I would never say this on TNF desk, but I'm on the ThomaHawk Show, so I'm going to let it fly. And it can be that the Jets will go 0-16. I'm okay with that. Whatever comes to your mind, Colleen. If you have any hot takes, you have the floor. You have the stage to give it to us right now.
Oh, my God. Okay. I mean, well, shoot, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
I have
you
so
can.
many hot takes.
So here,
oh, my God. Okay.
I'll lead you into something because we're going to New England this week, right? Okay. And Philly, New England, there's a recent history of some bad blood.
Yeah.
Okay. Being a Philly girl, being an Eagles fan, you can say really, really bad stuff about New England because there's like a 99% chance that Tom Brady is going to be on the desk with us after the game and it's going to get real awkward. So feel free to throw the most heat right now. Like, Tom Brady is way too old. He shouldn't be out there with all those young guys. It's just obvious he can't do it anymore. Right along those lines. If you want to just copy exactly what I said, that works great too.
Yeah, you can just say it verbatim. You got anything for us?
You know what though? This is perfect because Joe, you really do know me very well at this point now because you led me down a perfect road because you're right. The Patriots, look, the fact that Tom Brady was out there looking like a model on the field. And then you have them just dominating teams. I mean, like, this is just it's not even fair. It's so annoying that we have to deal with this every single year. I can't imagine being in their division. Like, I know that I shouldn't say this, but yeah, I hate the Patriots. They're the most annoying team in the entire league because they're so good.
There it is. I was wondering where you were going with that.
I don't know if that's a hot take or not.
It
but
really was.
Pretty
it wasn't that hot of a take, but you gave it passion. So we'll let it go. You started off like Tom Brady's a model. He's really good looking. Their team is so good. I'm like, okay, this is not that hot of a take, but yeah, you cleaned it up at the end there, Colleen. Now it's time to talk catchphrase, Colleen. Do you want in on the catchphrase, the ThomaHawk catchphrase game?
Oh my God, yes, please. I used to play this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I love this game so much.
All right.
I'm so in. Yes.
I'm not sure. Did you see Hawk today? So we record Sunday night for everybody that's listening on Monday. And Hawk was on TV today. and did a great job talking about somebody was giving the business to somebody else. And then the best part was how you sealed it, because out of nowhere, you knew which camera was on you, and you quickly whipped your head around and gave the cheesiest stare after you said it. That I know that your boss had to say something after you got off stage today.
They're like, why are you staring into the camera, like winking at everyone?
You can't do that anymore, man. We can't have that shit on here, dude.
You know what the funniest part is? Our first catchphrase, Colleen. So last week's catchphrase was "Give them the business." Joe hit it on Thursday Night Desk. I hit it today on Game Day Live. But our last week catchphrase was, what was it?
You got to get your money's worth.
You got to get your money's worth. So I said
there was a failure to communicate. I'm going to just say that right now off the top.
Joe clearly doesn't listen to his own podcast. But the funniest thing is that when me and you did Monday Total Access Endgame, when we were ending the show, like I think it was like your last sentence. In the middle of you talking, I just yelled out, "You got to get your money's worth," like randomly. And no one even noticed. But I'm standing beside you. Everyone was kind of looking like, "What the hell are you talking about, Hawk?" And I'm like, "Don't worry, this is something else." So you are already kind of in the game.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
You've been a part of it for 2 weeks now, and you have no idea.
This is so great.
All right, so I don't know what our catchphrase for this week is. Do we have it yet?
We have a few submissions, but we don't have one yet.
Let's vote on it right now.
This is
a great forum. We've got the great
time.
Colleen Lone Wolf with us. This is a great opportunity to make a final decision here.
We're pulling up our submissions. There were some really weird ones. There was "The Beast is in the Kitchen" was one.
That'd be impossible to throw in there without sounding like an idiot. The Beast is in the kitchen.
We had "You Can't Measure That with an Abacus."
I like that one. You could fit that one in there a lot of places.
That's kind of great. That's really good.
All right, what else we got, John? Read us the catchphrases you have.
Yeah, don't steal John.
I think those are two of the best ones. A few other submissions we got from Reddit, and that is how the cookie crumbles. Another one is "That's a bold strategy. We'll see if it works out for them." You got to be in it to win it. If you ain't first, you're last. I like "If you ain't first, you're last." That's pretty good. Slobber knocker. You hate to see it, which is our honorary submission of a couple weeks ago because it wasn't.
That's what I thought it was. Okay, Colleen. When we were in Jacksonville, I swear that was what the phrase was, and I said it twice when I was at the pool with MJD, and I got back and I was so proud, and like nobody at ThomaHawk was giving me the adulation I expected, and I was like, "You guys didn't get the copy? Like I said it twice," and they're like, "That wasn't the catchphrase, you moron."
All right, what's the last one?
"Scratch my back with a hacksaw and watch my sandwich."
Okay. Any of those stand out?
That might get bleeped out.
Yeah. Colleen, do any of those stand out to you?
I mean, the abacus one is kind of great.
Yeah. I like that one.
All right.
Can't measure that with an abacus.
Yeah, I think we should go with that one.
Let's go with that one. And I want to hear, okay, so we've decided on the catchphrase, but Colleen, you said that you've played this game before, or you just like that game because you've heard of it, or give us a little background there. I'm very curious.
No. So I used to play this game with my husband. We would figure out a catchphrase and then I would say it, or I used to do it with my boss when I worked in Philly. He would give me something crazy to say, and he was like, "If you can work that in, I'll buy you lunch tomorrow." And I mean, I would straight out the gate get to it.
Oh, I can't wait for this one. So
I love this. I live for this. This is great. I love games.
The first two could fly under the radar. You can't measure that with an abacus. I feel like it's going to stand out. I know I'm going to do it. I don't know if Joe is going to do it. I don't know if you're going to do it, Colleen. I'll be curious.
Put it in the books. It's done.
So
it's Colleen. That'll be the tricky one. Because me and Steve and Michael, we say a lot of dumb shit all the time. So it's easy to fit in there. But Colleen is a true professional.
If you guys both do it.
She never says anything dumb like this.
If you guys both say that on the same desk in the same broadcast, you guys might get emails from HR.
Well, the good news is.
No, it's so good.
The good news is, last week our boss sent us a very nice message after the show and said, I think the chemistry looks great. You guys have been doing a great job this year. I think the show is exactly what we want. And then I wrote back, going off of the fan to the head thing, that I need to know who I can call at HR because I need to file a complaint. And I thought I deserved the game ball for hiding my concussion.
Yeah, you played hurt.
And avoiding the concussion protocol and still going on stage and putting a great performance together. So I think we've built up a little bit of capital already where we can start being a little bit more ridiculous on the show and we can get away with it. So we should be just fine, I'm hoping.
Also, I have a question. Since you two are both media tycoons, when the producers write you and say,
you're the king of digital media.
When the producers write and they say, hey, that was a great show, or you guys are awesome, or in the middle of segments, we're like, oh, great set. Have you ever heard one of them ever say, like, yeah, that was terrible, let's get it better the second one? Like, every single time, every single show I've ever done, it's always great segment.
So this is Hawk's way of telling us how great he is, because they've never said that for me before.
Oh, you've actually never heard it. Okay.
So this is the first time I ever heard it. So I thought it was unique. But
well, you can't measure that with an abacus. All right. Yes. I'm so excited to see how this works out this week. This catchphrase of the week. Now that Colleen's in.
You know what? This reminds me that story of a story I heard about John Gruden when he was way back coaching the Eagles. I think he was offensive coordinator before he became a head coach. I had a friend that played for him, and he was like, I hate that John Gruden guy. He's such a backstabber. He would come he pulled me into his office, told me how great I was doing, and then I heard the next day he was talking to the scouts how they need to get rid of me and find somebody else. So you think, Hawk, are you going out on a limb and saying NFL Network people are saying that about me right now? They're like, oh, hey, you're doing a great job, buddy. All right, we got to find his replacement.
Exactly. They're setting you up, Joe. You're going to be full-time ThomaHawk here soon.
I've heard the same exact story. Like about Gruden, I've heard the same exact story. Not that like literal story, but the same exact thing from people that he will say something and then like turn around and then it's the complete opposite. And like whenever any of the producers are like, oh, that was such a great show, I immediately am like, I feel like they're lying to me. I feel like it was not a great show. Like anytime that they go out of their way to do it, I'm like,
Right, I'm getting fired.
Well, I think Gruden, he's the same person that he was when he was doing Monday Night Football, right? On Monday Night Football, he loved everybody. Oh, this guy, I love this tight end. He's amazing. Look how he blocks and he catches. But that's not how he really felt about people, because as soon as he goes to Oakland, he's trying to get rid of all their best players.
Right.
So clearly, like, you hear things about what he really feels, and then he's just, blowing everybody all the time. And apparently people find out about it. It doesn't work so great.
Yeah. You can't blow smoke up people's butt, man. They'll find out. All right, so Colleen, we're going to pick Monday Night Football tomorrow. We got the Browns taking on the 49ers. Who do you think wins? And understand, we have a heavy Cleveland fan base. And they will tweet you.
Oh, no, that's right. Okay.
No, keep it real, though. You can keep it honest.
Because, shoot. All right. Well, I'm trying to stay with like the picks that I gave for my Saturday show.
Good.
Because we have like a whole competition going on that show.
Okay.
With picks. Ooh. So I'll stay true to it, even though this is not great it's like I don't know my audience right now, but I'm picking the Niners in that game because I'm worried about the Browns secondary. I'm worried about like the guys that are banged up on this team.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they're coming off the bye, the 49ers are. They're at home. So I feel like all of that sort of plays into it.
Yeah, I'm actually picking the 49ers
their defensive
too.
line is amazing.
I want to be wrong, though. That's the difference. I picked the 49ers, but I hope I'm wrong. That's like my football brain, like trying to do the matchup thing.
So wait.
Oh! Yeah. Oh, nice.
I'm going to be the lone wolf and pick the Brownies. I wanted to do that for Colleen, but I guess it's me tonight. Yeah. That's pretty exciting. So if I did that on the Thursday Night Football set, when Colleen, because her shtick right now is that she's picking against the grain. She's the lone wolf. Every week so far, she has been the one that's picked different than the three other schmucks up there. And so she was the lone wolf. Yep. She was not right this week, by the way. But
man,
there's always next week.
I was so close to being right again. I was one missed Greg Zuerlein kick away.
Yeah. Story of our lives.
My favorite moment of the show from last week, Thursday, was Greg Zuerlein misses the kick, and he's a great kicker. They're not going to get rid of him, obviously. And as soon as we go on after the game, Steve Smith goes, yeah, they're cutting Greg Zuerlein tomorrow. He's out of here. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's a bad take. I looked at him, I go, that's a bad take.
Hot take, Smitty. I love it.
He's even more of a hot take artist than me and you, Hawk.
Hot Takes Mini. Me and Colleen both have animals
so
as nicknames. Wolf and Hawk. That's a big deal. Random fact there. So, yeah. I like how Colleen's like, oh, yeah, that is cool. Just completely pacifying
I didn't even
an
realize
idiotic
that.
statement.
That's
Like,
great.
wow, that's awesome.
Best friends.
BFFs.
All right, Colleen, we'll let you go, but we definitely appreciate you being on. We've got one more question. I want to hear, nerdy question from me is, what's the game Thursday Night Football that you're most looking forward to the rest of the season?
Assuming that you know what the games are, because if you're anything like me, I don't think past
I'm running,
24 hours.
Literally running over to my computer like Thursday Night Football schedule, because I was looking forward most to the Eagles at Packers, because I'd never been
That
to
was a
Lambeau.
good one.
And so
Yeah,
that
was
was
a good one.
That was my one thing that I was super pumped about. But now, okay, I have the schedule here. So I'm thinking oh man, yikes. Well, I am excited about the Cleveland game, because I feel like those fans were, if it's anything like the last game, that will be so much fun. And then also I've never been to Soldier Field, and I know that it's going to be absolutely freezing because it's late in the season when Cowboys and Bears play. But that could decide, I think, a lot of different things if the divisions, as they stay sort of tight as they are right now with the NFC North and the NFC East. That could be a pivotal game in terms of like playoffs and stuff. So I think that's going to be a good one, and I hope it snows.
Oh, jeez, Colleen. Do you love cold weather?
She's from Philly. Of course she does.
I don't like cold weather, but I really love snow.
I'm from Pennsylvania
Everybody
too.
loves a snow
I hate
game,
cold
man.
weather. I don't care if I never see another snowdrop, I would be fine.
Worst.
If
Really?
you've ever
Really?
seen a snowdrop, call me, because I don't know what that is.
I said if I never see another flake of snowdrop, I would be fine.
Flake of snowdrop.
I don't care.
That's it.
I never want to see another flake of snow. That might be a
that a
catchphrase.
catchphrase?
Yes.
Flake of
I'm
snowdrop?
actually playing with another show that I do. They're like, hey, get this on the ThomaHawk Show. See a flake of snowdrop. All right, Colleen. We appreciate you joining us here on the ThomaHawk Show. We got one more request before you go. Our catchphrase, we're big on catchphrases,
Okay.
if you couldn't tell, is Joe Hawk yourself. So I need you to give us an enthusiastic Joe Hawk yourself that we can end the show with. Floor is yours.
Okay, awesome. All right, so thank you guys for having me on. I will definitely come up with a hotter take next time. And until then, wait, what was it?
Oh, that was perfect. We'll go with that
She's
one.
going to be awesome at this game.
What was the catchphrase again, guys?
Go hawk yourself, right?
Joe Hawk,
Joe Hawk yourself.
Joe's name, Joe. My name, Hawk, and yourself.
I got it. Okay, here we go, guys. You ready? Take 2. All right, guys, thanks for having me. And Joe Hawk yourself.
Yes. All right. Round of applause.
The
for
great Colleen
Nailed it.
Lone Wolf.
Nailed it.
Wolf.
All
She
right,
nailed
Colleen,
it again.
enjoy your night.
Thank you so much for being on with us. Look forward to seeing
right.
you this week
Thanks,
in
guys.
Foxborough.
Thank you, guys.
See you,
Absolutely.
Colleen.
Have a great night. Well, that was the great Colleen Wolfe from NFL Network, my co-host on the Thursday Night Football Show. Hawk, I know you get to work with her a lot, but she's been great. She started working before I did at Thursday Night Football, and she's been super welcoming and helpful, and it's just been a joy. And now she's a member of the ThomaHawk, and she's in on the catchphrase, which is something that I am super excited about, because you could tell listening to her, she is definitely in on the catchphrase, and she's super excited as well.
Super excited. Tell me this, Joe. Who do you like working with better, Colleen or myself? Be honest.
Well, I like working with you
Okay, that's
when I don't have to be
clear.
in the same room as you.
Anyone who says starts to answer with well means that it was Colleen. All right, I get it.
Well, Colleen is a little bit more of my favorite than you are. I'm sorry to say.
All right, I'll allow it.
Well, anyways, I think before we wrap the show, we've got an interesting voicemail from our boss, Maverick Carter, who is, interestingly enough, Cleveland Browns and San Francisco 49ers fan. So he'll be watching the game on Monday night very closely. So if we got that voicemail ready, why don't we cue it up so we can give a couple hot takes.
Thanks.
Browns versus the Niners. actually the Maverick Carter Bowl. I grew up in Akron, but I actually grew up a San Francisco 49ers fan, as Jerry Rice was my favorite athlete in the world, along with Michael Jordan and Deion Sanders. But the Browns still tug at my heart, although a lot of times on Sundays it ends up as a heart attack. But this is the Maverick Carter Bowl. I root for both teams. I pull for the Niners a little bit harder. If both got to the Super Bowl, I maybe would pull for the Browns because they've never won one, and I would love it to see the Browns win one. But I can tell you this, if I ever bought the Browns, which I would love to do one day, the first thing I would do is change the uniforms and not give a damn what anyone thinks. Joe and Hawk, what do you think about the Browns changing the uniforms? Though I think the uniforms this year are better, but the helmets still need change. Something has to change.
That's a hot take from Maverick, but I would concur. I would change the Browns uniforms back to the Browns. When I signed with the Browns in 2014, the thing I was most excited about was wearing the old school Browns uniforms. I thought it was so cool that the uniforms have never really changed since the beginning. And when they changed the uniforms, you can go back on my timeline, even as a player, even though the organization was pissed at me for doing so, I was tweeting how I hated the new uniforms. I wanted the old school uniforms back. I wanted to keep it the way that it was. And the new ones with the Cleveland across the chest, although the idea is cool, I thought the uniforms sucked, to be honest.
Hot take Hawk there.
Yeah, I'm just going to be honest.
The one thing Maverick didn't say was what he would change it to. Would he go crazy and change it to something totally different, or would he go back to the old school classic look? Because one thing I've always respected about the Browns uniforms, like you said, Hawk, is they've always been very clean and classic and not they're throwbacks, but they're not ridiculous. Like when the Steelers or like the Packers or some of these other teams wear their throwbacks, it's like an eyesore, right? Mm-hmm. It's crazy, but the old school Browns was just very classic. And so I'm curious if Maverick prefers going back to that look or if he would just totally change it up. Because I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I kind of like the Cleveland on the front of the chest. I kind of like their uniforms right now.
I hated those uniforms, bro.
I think they're kind of cool. I like the fact that it just represents the city, but it still maintains a lot of the classic imagery from the old school uniforms. So I don't know, put me into the camp of maybe I'm just a homer and I know where my bread is buttered. But
yeah, it's smart.
I like the Browns uniforms, and I guess I was never really much for caring how I looked on the field because my pants were so big. I looked like I was wearing baggy sweatpants. Yeah. So I clearly did not care that much. I was more interested in how I performed. I know that's unique for receivers because they care way more about how they look than how they play.
I don't get it, man. It makes zero sense to me.
But I do like that Maverick said, he'd love to buy the Browns when he buys the Browns. So should we outbid Maverick and buy the Browns and turn them into the Cleveland ThomaHawks? That is the real question.
That's the real question. Hit us up on social. Let us know what you think. Should we buy the team and change the team name to the Cleveland ThomaHawks? Give it a new history, right? Because we're a winning podcast. We've actually never lost. Shout out to LeVar Ball. Also, if Mav bought the Browns and he called you and said, be the head coach, would you take it, Joe? Be honest.
So the first question I would ask is, like the first question you should ask anytime somebody offers you anything, how much is it going to cost or how much are you going to pay me?
Okay.
Because really there's a price for everything.
Going rate for NFL
the going rate,
coaches.
I'm not interested. I'm much happier doing the ThomaHawk Show, working with my teammate, the great Colleen Wolfe. Having my weekends where I can watch the Badgers on Saturday. I can be a fan of the Browns on Sunday. Having a very stress-free Monday. I don't have to go in with a sick feeling in my stomach like I would after every game. I'm just much happier not having the stress of coaching. And I love my family. And when you're a coach, you can't love your family.
Yeah.
You can't love your family.
Coach in the NFL or love your family.
You can say you love your family, but when you see them 2 hours a week, you're not actually loving your family. One of our head coaches that was with the Browns, this is just to give a sense for how awful it is to be a head coach in the NFL. The only time during the week when he would see his kids was Friday between school, like 3 and 5. So Friday is the day that everyone gets out early because practice is done at 12:30. Then you have time to eat lunch and do your recovery stuff, sometimes get a lift in, and a lot of times you're home by 3:30, 4 o'clock. And so the coaches were usually out of the building about 3, but this head coach that we had would go home at 3. He would get his kids, they would go get ice cream, and then he would take them home, drop them back off, and go back to the office, and then spend the night at the office. And that was the only time during the week, except for I think they rode home together after the game, maybe after home games, that the head coach would see his family. And that is not unique whatsoever across the league. That's very, very typical. Most head coaches, they'll see their kids maybe 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week for a couple hours. And then they get to see him maybe on the weekends in the off season.
Yeah. You know, as a head
coach. And then
coach,
they get like 2 weeks a year. That's it.
You know, as a head coach, he used to coach me and you. Our offensive coordinator.
Kyle Shanahan.
Drink. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the ThomaHawk. Listen, we're recording again Tuesday. This is after the Browns 49ers Monday Night Football game. So we will have a full recap of everything that happens when the Browns go back on the prime time, this time against Joe's favorite dad, Kyle Shanahan. Listen, make sure you subscribe, rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to your shows. I think that does it, Joe. What do you got for us? Final thoughts.
Right now, I'm going to start turning my final thoughts into a shout-out segment. So this final thoughts / Joe's shout-outs is not a Joe Stradamus moment, although I think that should also be a segment because I am great at predicting things, except I'm not great at predicting that the Bengals are still a pretty good team because they're 0-5 and they looked absolutely horrible today. So I'm going to retract that Joe Stradamus comment, but I'm going to move forward and say Christian McCaffrey, shout out to him for revitalizing the value of the running back position.
The white running back.
He's only the fourth. And the white running back.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that, but he is white also.
Yeah.
He's brought it back, although I think he's the only one. But he's the 4th player in the Super Bowl era to have 5 or more games with a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown in the first 3 seasons of his career. The others, Alvin Kamara, Edgerrin James, and Chuck Foreman, who I don't even know who that is, but he's on that list.
Yeah.
McCaffrey now has the 2nd most scrimmage yards in the first 5 games of a season since 1950, following only the great Jim Brown. Ooh. But I will say, 5 years ago, the running back position was all but dead because running back was thought of more traditionally. Put him in the backfield, put a fullback in front of him, smash his head into the linebacker, hope to get 3.5 or 4 yards. Now, they're having a bit of resurgence, kind of like when you think back 5 to 10 years when the tight end position had a resurgence. All of a sudden, the guys that looked like Jimmy Graham started playing tight end. Mm-hmm. They started moving them away from the line of scrimmage, splitting them out, getting bad matchups for the defense. Rob Gronkowski, they became these weapons because they were more than just block and catch passes on the goal line. They were actually weapons where you would use them to get mismatches. And that's what teams are starting to do right now with the running back position. And Christian McCaffrey is the perfect person for that role because of his size, his speed, his quickness, the way he can catch the football, and the way he becomes a huge weapon when you get him out of the backfield. And so for him, there's going to be a lot of running backs after him now that I think are going to be able to thank him because they're going to start getting paid like they used to, like the weapons that they actually are. So my shout out for the day, Christian McCaffrey. Nice job.
All right. That's a ThomaHawk listener. Got the shout out, Christian McCaffrey. All right. Well, Colleen Wolfe, take us out.
Yo, hawk yourself.